Hi everyone. So today I'm going to take topic on flexbox. Okay, so basically, let's see what is the main idea behind flexbox and grid logic. So basically, if you see the traditional without flex, like before in PS2, I guess there was a difficulty in managing the layout of the entire application. So suppose if you want to have a what we say align vertically, then you have to have a lot of struggle in aligning vertically in the same way when you are using block scope. So basically the same way arranging everything in the inline is also a difficulty when you work with multiple divs in the block scope. So for this issue the main logic that came out is the flexbox layout. Okay, so basically it is using the flex to alter the height and width and apart from that to fill the available space and shrink them whenever it's possible. So basically, you can do many sort of layout activities with the flexbox. Okay. So one more thing is flexbox is direction agnostic. What does it mean is that it can handle the direction properties very easily, and so horizontally, inline, vertically, everything is works so fine in the flexbox. We are going to see how later on. So let's see how it differs from the grid. In the grid, basically, it is intended for large scale layouts. Large scale layout, like for example, you might have used the Bootstrap library. So there we have seen there is like it divide the entire system into 12 different columns. That 12 different columns are different grid that is used for an entire application. So grid layouts is basically for large scale layouts, and flex layout is small scale layout. Small scale in the sense, suppose if there is a part of web page which I showed in the right hand side below here. So here you can see I have used an image, then just a heading and some sort of activities which is used at a particular place. So we can say it is a small scale layout or a particular place layout. So we can use the flexbox more easy way in a small scale and great for the larger scale. Okay, so grid we can say later on, but today it's entirely about flexbox layout because that is more important in our application too and anywhere, like it's very important to see. So, for example, understanding the flexbox layout, see one of the layout examples. So this is one of the web page. Okay, here we have some sort of buttons and header with some sort of tabs in it and some content here and an image here. So let's see the same thing in the flex. How we can understand very basic is that this entire thing, this entire header is a part. Okay, so here we can have a sort of button, and here we have empty space and then some sort of button later on, then again empty space and button. Like that way we can understand why spaces. We can understand more later on, but you can see the entire thing can be formulated in that form of a layout or a flex layout. So same thing we can same logic would be applying for grid, but we can see later on. But it's like we can divide a web page basically to make it more simplistic and minimalistic. As we know, the more simple the website is and larger the utilization of spaces, the better the website can make. So to the flexbox, I have divided into five small categories. First is the basic display, flex flow and order. Second is flex grow, shrink and basis. The third is justify content, then align item, align content, align cell, and then gap thing. Okay, one more thing is that justify item and justify self are ignored in the flexbox. It is mainly used in grid, but in the flexbox it is not used. So I am just skipping this topic. Okay, in the grid we can see the usage of both of this. Now, to understand the basic terminology, let's understand the system of, like, suppose there is one parent div and there's some sort of child inside it. Okay, so the parent one I am stating as a container, and the inner items, whatever it is, card, div or anything, that I am stating as an item. Okay, so also there is something like single line system and multi-line system or grid system. So what exactly single line system is there? All your alignment, all the things are in one particular line. Okay, it's not in multiple lines. So whenever everything is one single line, we can say it as a single line system. And whenever there are multi-line or sort of grid, we can say then it is like multi-line system. Okay, so there are some flex property which are made only for single line system, and some are made only for multi-line system that you cannot use in single line. So we can see the example of each of them later on. Okay. So till here, anybody has any doubts?
So flexbox, like multi-line system, is also possible in flexbox.
Yeah, multi-line system it's supporting in the flexbox. basically flex what is meant that there is some sort of layout like I have shown in the example. Here this thing is also a flex box. Okay, so here this you can see as one particular container, this one has one particular container, this one has particular, so multi-line it is supporting. Okay, some properties of the flexbox is supporting multi-line system too. Okay, we can see how the multi-line system is created. Okay, so multi-line system is supporting. Okay, that we can see later how multi-line system are created in the flexbox and how we are handling it. Okay, so coming to our first topic, that is display, flex, and order. Okay, so what exactly, as I said previously, by default there is something, the default display is block. Okay, so whenever there is block, whenever you create another div, everything goes into the next line. So this, suppose you have created one div, the next div come to, so here A, B, C, and D, you can state as either a card or just a div or anything. Okay, any of the thing which are inside a container. This black color box is the container, inside that childs are there. You just say in the like that way. So what exactly flex do? Flex can, if you just put display flex, what it will do, it will align every element sideways. So your first thing, your first div, whatever it is there, or card or anything, that come first, and the sideway there would be like next element, next element, next element. So you can see the difference between block and flex. Okay, so just with display flex, it will make your element sideways. Okay, now coming to next property, that is flex direction. So as I said earlier, it is direction agnostic. So it support your direction highly. So you can do either, when you put display flex, by default the direction is the row. Row means in the from left to right it will go straight way. Okay, but you can also add a support for column and make it similar like a block one. So what exactly you can do, you can just put flex direction column. Okay, so and what it will do, it will, the sideways element come from top to bottom, just like in the block scope. Okay, then coming to row reverse and row column, these two are the other flex properties, other direction properties which it support. So what exactly it will do, it will reverse the direction of the row. Row is going from left to right, D, C, B, A. Okay, so here if you see in the row it is A, B, C, D, and in the row reverse it is reverse DCBA. So you can reverse the direction. So suppose your four cards are there. Okay, if you want to change the direction of card in some circumstances, so directly you can just change one CSS property, that is flex direction column reverse. So that will automatically, row reverse, it will automatically reverse the direction of your row. Same thing goes for column. Okay, that's it for flex direction. Till here, anybody has any doubt? Okay, so now coming to the third property, that is flex wrap. So what exactly it is? Okay, so firstly let's understand that, suppose if your one of the item is suppose 100 pixel. Okay, just assume an example, and when you do display flex, it will shrink it no matter how much what we say, it will shrink it so that everything come into one row. So example, here if you see BCDA comes into one row, but the original size of A is something very bigger, or size double the size of what is displayed in no wrap. So by default the value is no wrap. Okay, that is your flex. Whenever you put display flex, your flex wrap set to no wrap. Okay, but when you wrap it, then what it it will calculate your original content, like the original size of content. So here suppose A is 100 pixel right now. Okay, it is shrink to 50 pixel. Now what it will do, when you put wrap, then again it will come to 100 pixel, then 100 pixel, and if there is some gap, it will leave that gap and comes to next line, and it will render your other div accordingly. Okay, so if you see the same thing with no wrap, what exactly it is happening, it all are clubbed into one particular line. But with the wrap, you can create the multi-line flex system. Okay, so the thing which Shankar told at the beginning, Shankar has asked the doubt that whether we can have a support for multi-line. So this wrap is helped to create a multi-line flex system. Okay, so a particular line is being split into multiple lines using flex wrap, and we can use accordingly how we want. We can see some other properties with the wrap. One more thing is wrap reverse here. So wrap reverse, what exactly it will do? If you see wrapping is done after A and B, then the new line start, and then C and D are rendered to next line. It will reverse this rendering process. So what exactly it will do? This particular thing, this C and D combined, you can say as one wrap, the A and B are combined, you can say as one wrap. So it will alter the sequence. So here CD comes first, AB comes second. So that's how wrap reverse work. So any doubt till here in the wrap reverse flex wrap? So flex wrap can take only three properties, that is no wrap and wrap reverse. And this wrap and wrap reverse help you to create multi-line flex system.
This we will put in the parent div itself, right? Like flex wrap, not in
Yeah,
the child.
whatever property I have put inside container, so the container would have that property. If there is something like I put inside an item, so that we can see later, there are some properties which come inside item, that will be inside item only you can put. So everything it is there in a container. We can have flex direction here, flex wrap here, and other thing you can see as per the code I have written. Container means it will be in the parent one. Okay, now coming to flex flow. So what exactly it is the combination of two things. Okay, one is your flex direction and second one is flex wrap. Okay, so here, so suppose if I put a row and no graph, that is the default property of a flex. It will give you original display. It is equivalent to display flex, and you don't need have to write to flex no graph. Okay, but in case if I have written column wrap, so what exactly it is telling? There are three properties in the firstly it will display column. So everything comes one below another. Okay, and suppose if there is wrap I have written, so once the height get ended, it will shift the next element to the sideways, like next field. So wrap will automatically generate a new line if the content height is less than the combination of A, B, and C, like that. Okay, and if you want to totally reverse that, like suppose here you have seen in a wrap, I have put A, B, C, D. You want D, C, B, A in the sequence. So to that we can use row reverse and combination of wrap reverse. These two combinations totally change what we say 180 degree of the sequence of alignment in the row in the wrap, then to row reverse this thing. Like it ABCD would turn into DCBA if you use combination of row reverse and wrap reverse. So here flex flow is the combination of two things, and the combination can be used to alter many structure accordingly how you want. So any doubt till here? Okay, so now coming to order. Order is like suppose whatever sequence you have written, div A, div B, div C, div D. Okay, it will it will render in the same sequence. Okay, and by default order value is 0. So whenever order value is 0, it will see 4 zeros, so it will render in a sequential way. But you want that suppose in this case, suppose D you want to be come first, then C, then B, or like that. You want to have your own sequence. Okay, so you can alter the order like we have a Z index thing, right, in CSS. Whichever index is higher, that will come. That will have a more front way approach than other one. Same way we have in the order. Order can be negative, and if you write -9 anyone, so -9, it will say that it is the least. Like C is not there, so by default the value is 0. So C is 0, D is -9, B is 3, and A is 1. So what it will find the lowest most value, that is -9. It will render D first. Then it will see the lowermost value from A, B, and C. So here then it will print C because C value is 0. By default, the C value is 0. All default value is 0. Then B is sorry. Then A comes, order is 1. Then B come, order is 3. So like that, it will check the order, and you can alter the order accordingly. So suppose if you have more priority one, priority card or something, you can have you can write the order as negative so that it may come first and all other things come last. So like that you can order accordingly. So here we ended the first part of today's, that is flex order display order and flex flow, and any doubt till here? So if you see till now, the combination of all this, you can create any sort of flex system with your own order, whether it's single line, multi-line, you can do accordingly. And I guess till now, this is the core concept of flex. Later on, it's just an alteration and other things which we can see based on the size of div and other things. Okay, now coming to second most concept, that is main flex, that is flex grow, shrink, and basis. Okay, so what exactly this flex selector would do? So flex is a selector which has three properties: flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. Okay, so we can, in a easier way of understanding way, we can say that what flex grow is the maximum of the width it can take. So maximum thing is the flex max. Okay, shrink is like the property which is like at the minimum most, like when it is a minimum size it can take, and the flex basis is the ideal size. Now we can understand this further, like how exactly it is working. But firstly, do understand flex grow have value 0, flex shrink at value 1, and flex basis has auto. So what exactly this means? Okay, so firstly we understand that flex grow and shrink are the basically the proportion in which the flex will grow or flex will shrink. Okay, and flex basis is the size, like in a pixel. What is the ideal size? What you are expecting? Okay, so proportion.
Name of the third one, there is a typo, I think, on the third one.
I did.
There's a flex grow is repeating. Third one.
It would be flex basis most probably. I guess I have missed that. Flex grow, shrink, and basis. So here, if you see flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. So the flex grow would be the maximum.
Okay.
Flex shrink would be the minimum, and flex basis is the ideal size. So flex basis is basically the ideal size, what you want. Okay, so flex grow and shrink are the proportion in which it will grow or shrink. So let's understand this. Okay, so suppose if you display flex a, b, c, d, and are the four child. Okay, so these four child are aligned together, and suppose the container size is something you can say very huge, it's like 1,000 pixel. Okay, and this individual size are 50 pixels. So this combined to give 200 pixels. Correct. So this A is 50, B is 50, C is 50, D is 50. So this till here it is 200 pixel. Okay. Now what you do?
So the first one is the default, like
default one, display flex. Okay, display flex is the default one, and I am assuming that this is 50 pixel, 50 pixel, 50 pixel, 50 pixel. Till here is 200 pixel, and this one is you can say 1000 pixel. Okay. Now what I want that individual item of the flex should be 100 pixel, or the individual thing should be 100 pixel. Okay. So this flex grow, shrink, and basis would be inside the child. Okay, it will not be inside a container, it will be inside the child A, B, C, D. In that it will be there. So I want individual one should be 100 pixels. So what I did, in the each child I have put flex basis 100 pixels. So what exactly it will do, it will make your this thing 50 pixel to 100 pixels. So each of your item would be of size 100 pixel. Okay, now assume here till here it's 400 pixel, we frank right now. Okay, now assume that what you have this much empty space. Okay, this much empty space, and you have this much ample amount of area. Okay, and these are suppose the card which you want to show the customer, like this is a very important something like so what you will do, you can grow it at the pace you want, like you want we should get a maximum area. So what I did, I kept flex grow 1. So what exactly it is telling that each of the item should have flex grow 1. So each one of the item should have a equal space in the entire container space. So here container space is there, each one of the item will have entire full width. Okay, so here how flex grow work. Now flex shrink work only on the time when the container size is below the size of the flex combination of flex bases. So this one is 100, 100, 100, 100. So when the container size grow less than 400, at that time flex shrink work and flex grow stop working. So flex shrink will work at the time when the container size is less than the combination of flex bases. So here it is like 400 pixel. So when its size come to suppose 300 pixel. Okay, so what is the our assumption is that each of the items should shrink in the same rate which we want. Nobody should shrink less or more, and we can have a equal spacing at the time when it is shrinking, when the container is less than 5. So this flex grow, basis, and shrink would work very well in the responsive view. The core of responsive view specifically comes from the this three property, which you can use furthermore to get more responsive behavior. Okay, now let's understand flex grow more. So what if I alter and change the flex grow of each one of them? Okay, for the A I have put flex grow 4, B I have put flex grow 1, C I have put flex grow 2, and I have changed accordingly. So whenever suppose if I alter the structure, like suppose if I change each of the flex grow, okay, so after the flex basis, you have a combination of flex basis, whatever container size is remaining. Okay, the flex grow 4 means it will take 4 times the space than the one which is having the flex grow 1. So here it suppose takes 100 pixel it is taking. Okay, so it will take 400 pixel. This one will take 200 pixel. This one will take 300 pixel to fill the entire space. Okay, so flex grow will work only when the combination of flex size, flex basis is less than your entire container size. Okay, so I guess if you like suppose if you have combination of flex basis is 400 pixels, then your first container should be more than 400 pixels to make flex grow work. Okay, and if it is equal to 400, then your flex basis work, neither flex shrink work or nor flex grow work. And when it is when your container size is less than the flex combination of flex basis, at that time flex shrink work, flex grow will not work. That's the simple logic behind this three. Okay. Now coming to
So flex grow, since it's not a pixel based like unit. It is just a ratio.
It's a proportional based unit. So flex grow and shrink are the proportional base. It would be a number, non-negative number from 0 to whatever value you want. It will set that in a proportion way. So here flex grow is, suppose I put 1. So everything in the proportion of 1 1 1 1. Here I have put 4:1:2:3. So it will be in the same proportion. Okay. Flex grow and shrink are the proportions, whereas flex basis is basically what we say your pixel size, or in the pixel or em or rem, anyway, like that. Okay. One more thing is that flex grow can also be in a percentage, because percentage is also a way of showing proportion. So that two are the value, either it can be 1 4 2 3, or it will be 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, like that way. The combination would be 100 and it would be great. That's it. The same work for shrink. Okay, if I put shrink 4, what does it say? That it will shrink 4 times more than the which is shrink 1. Okay, so I put shrink 1 here in the A part. So it is shrinking, like say this is right now 200 pixels. So this one would be, you can say, grow to some 20 40 pixels, something like that, and this would be 4 times more, that is 80 pixels. So like that you can say that if I put shrink 4, that it means that it will shrink 4 times more when the container size is less than your flex combination of flex basis. Same way it is 3 means it will shrink 3 times the shrink flex shrink 1 1. So like that way it will shrink. The more the proportion it is, more the it will shrink, and here more the proportion it is, the more it will grow. So it is the logic of just proportions. Any doubt till here? Okay, now coming to the topic justify content. Okay, justify content, it will do what it will do. Suppose if you have a particular content, this work in a, I am showing our single line, we can see multi-line one example later on. Okay, so in a single line, what exactly it will do? It will align your content, not align, it will make your content spread in such a way that it should follow a particular methodology. For example, if I want to, if I write flex, justify content flex start, it will start all the item from the beginning. Okay, so first item, second item, third item, fourth item. It will not alter its width. It will just with the same width, whatever it is there by default, it will combine them and start everything from the beginning. So if I put center, all the things, the combination of all the 4 would come into the center. If I put at the end, it will, what it will do? It will move everything to the end. So like that way, it will define the alignment along the main axis. It will define the main alignment. Okay. So when these 3 are the values. Apart from that, we have values such as space between, space around, and space evenly to manage the space efficiently. So what we can do? Suppose we what exactly each one of the do. So space between, what it will do? It will put the first one at the very beginning and last one at the very end, and manages the space such a way that there should be an equal space between each one of them. Okay. Space around, what it will do? It will put equal space from each of the elements. So here we have A. It will, suppose here it will put 10 pixel. Here also it will put 10 pixel space till here. Okay. Sorry. Here it will put 10 pixel, and here it will again put 10 pixel space till here. Okay, then in the B again it will put 10 pixel space here and 10 pixel space here. So if you see, the space here would be half the size of each of the space in between. So here it is 10 pixels, so here it would be in between 20 pixels. Then here it would be 20 pixels, then 20 pixels, then again 10 pixels, like that. Space around work in that way. And space evenly, it will have an equal space between each one of them. So here before a suppose 10 pixels, then here it is 10 pixel, here it is 10 pixel, here it is everywhere it's 10 pixel, like that. So space evenly is most used, or space between is are the two mostly used. There is space around because it give an what is a visual effect that it's not equal, like that way. Okay, the same thing in the column. If you see, I think some part is hidden. And the same thing in the column, what how it works basically is the same way. If you put here what is say space evenly, then it would be evenly spaced in the column. If you put space around, then it would be space around. The same thing in the column way it would work. Okay, so each of them are the column, and suppose if you can say as a div, which is a flex direction column. So in that way, this are aligned in a. This is start, center, and end, like that way. Okay, till here, anybody has any doubt? Okay. Okay, now align item content and align self. What exactly it is? Okay, so suppose if we are working, like if you have a particular span in which primary is written, and we have a mat icon which is bigger than that. Okay, and you need that everything should be in particular way, like we can say everything would be the center. So in that way, this should be a text, this should be a button, and like that way. So what we can do, we can align items such that each of them should align in the cross axis, or in the axis which is from left to right in the say in the row. Okay, so what exactly, so we can see first value is the default value, that is stretch. So what exactly it will do, suppose the original size or original height, you can say here instead of width, original height or something. So it will stretch everything so that everything come in a single line. Okay, so everything come into this axis, this is the axis, and everything get aligned to that. Okay, another thing is, okay, we can come to baseline later on. Okay, another thing is flex start. So start, what it will do, it will start from the very beginning, like everything aligned to the top. Okay, in the case of column, everything aligned to the top. In the align item center, what exactly it will do, it will align everything in the central axis. So alignment means in the way that the height is adjusted in the case of row, and width is adjusted in the time when it comes to column. Okay, then there is something called flex end. So what exactly flex end is, the end, everything aligned to the end part. Okay, so this is the way alignment is done, at the top, at the bottom, or in the center. In that way, or either we can stretch everything and put into the same height, something like that. Or what we can do, one more thing is baseline. Baseline, what exactly it will do, it will align everything in a row such that the last text, so here suppose last text is A, or something is written there, is there some full stop or something, from that point it will measure every last line, and it will align such a way that all the lines should come together. So suppose here there is some sentences are written and the last word is A. Here some sentences are written B, and the rest all space are left as it is. So what baseline will do, it will do everything from the baseline, that is from the last text it will do. Okay, it will check that where the text or your in the div end, and it will do accordingly such that everything look into the same column. Okay, so this is not much used, but it can be used, like I guess Google News use this, and there are many ways we can use this later accordingly. Same way in the column, it is like it will check left and right thing with respect to. So if you put flex end here, everything aligned to the right hand side. If I put flex start here, everything come to the left hand side, and center is the same way. So axis is changing, so it's the opposite what is there in the row. But we can see, like we can understand from this example how everything work in the, as we see in the justify content, same thing in the aligned item. Okay, so any doubt till here? Okay, so align self, what exactly it is, how it is differing from aligned. Okay, so let's say what exactly align item is doing. If you put align as a flex start, what exactly it will do, it will put, I am just theoretically explaining, so it will put align self flex start in each one of them. So if you want that there should be one property which should be differing from the alignment what is there in the flex aligned item. So what you can do, you can change by align self. So here if you see what I have done, I have put align self as start. Okay, these three are in the align self start, so everything is stick to the top. Okay, but what I have did for the C item is that I have put align self as flex end. So in the flex end, it will go to the bottommost of the project, and and for the column thing, it will go to the rightmost part. So it is changing the way how it is done in row and column, and you can change one particular property of each one of them. Align self. Align self always come inside and what we say items instead of container. Align self. Sorry, here it would be align items. Okay, I have missed that. So here it's align item as start. Everything is the start, and align self always come inside the inner child. So in the align self can modify one value of the align item which is already in the alignment. Any confusion till here? Okay. Now coming to multi-grid system. Okay, so align content is the one which we can arrange the way in the multi-grid. So in the multi-grid, suppose if this is this is one of the row, and as soon as we have applied flex wrap, everything comes to the next line. Okay, when it comes to the next line, if we apply say justify content space between, so first content would come to the first and second would be the at the line. Here also first is at the beginning, second one is at the end, and everything is in the between. Okay, now what we want to do, we want alter this particular row. If you say this particular row is as a one block, and this particular block as a one block, so we can use align content. So if we put, suppose here it is the normal one, that is the default behavior. If we put start, everything come to the top, so this one comes to the top, and followed by this one also start, and it will stick to the top. Okay, same way if we put the align content end or the flex end, what it will do, it will come to the bottom, everything comes to the this E and F come to the bottommost, and this one come to the little more downer, so that we can see the flex content. So here this entire block, this the dotted one, this entire blocks move instead of inner element. Okay, inner element doesn't care, so each of the line you can alter the way it is. So space between would be first one come to the top, this block come to the end, and the space is created in between. Same way align content space evenly, that is equal, it will be equi spaced everywhere, and the space around, we have seen this would be smaller, this would be smaller, this would be twice the distance of top and bottom one. So like that align content work in the multi-grid, and it will change the alignment of a particular row in the case when flex direction is row, or an entire column and flex direction is column, and like that we can move accordingly. Then there is align content center. So center would be centralizing the entire thing in the between. So here it would be QE space, here it would be QE space. Same way align content stretch, what it will do, it will stretch top and the bottom one. So till here we can say that our align content or all the major topic has covered. Only gap is remaining. That is like how we can set the gap, which we can say later on. So align content in the column, it can work in the same way with respect to left and right instead of top and bottom. Okay. So this one is the last topic in which we can set the gap in between. So if it is a row gap, it will set gap in the row, and if it is a column gap, it will set the gap in the column. And accordingly, we can work in the multi-way axis. We can set column gap, row gap, and flex gap. So I guess this is one of the example you can see later on. I have shown an example how we can apply flex to the real item. Thank you. I guess everything is clear. So hi everyone. So today I am going to take the topic of grid. Flexbox is already completed. So I guess if anyone having any doubt, he can ask now, like in the Flexbox topic. Apart from that, coming to grid, so I have just segregated into 4 different parts. One is regarding a gap, another is placing the item like layout thing, third one is placing an item, and fourth one, the first one which I have written, is making a grid. Okay, so let's see more about the grid concept ahead. Okay, so now let's understand the grid system. Okay, so grid system is basically, you can say, when you create a table of particular columns and rows, like that we create a system of a grid. Okay, so here in the system of grid, let's understand this. I have created a 4 into 3 grid. Okay, suppose if there is some sort of issue, I have added like one item which is outside the grid, like it is like taking the 4 number of rows. So what exactly grid system will do, grid will automatically create one more row for this. Okay, so it will so that it can assign four different rows as given to the parent. So this one, the grid which was original was called explicit grid, and one which is created is called implicit grid, which was created just because of either you can say negligence or due to some criteria. It was created unexpectedly. So grid will automatically create a column. So these two, you can say extended grid and main grid, that is the difference. All the items are arranged inside in a grid, what is a grid item, grid created. So one of the part of the grid will hold an item. You can extend it accordingly. So here you can see this particular item has four different rows, and this one has two different columns, and like that you can arrange accordingly. Okay, so that is basically the grid system. Now you see in the flexbox all the items are contiguous. Here also we can have the contiguous item. We can make them how we should display, but in the same time we can also put non-contiguous item randomly here and there. So here I have just put four item at four different places. So we can do like this also in the grid, which is not perfectly possible in the flex system. Flex system, we can allot the spaces. We work with the spaces mainly, the leftover spaces, and we perform all the operation there. Grid, we create a grid system accordingly so that we can place any item at any particular place wherever we want in the grid. So that is the basic difference between these two. Okay, now coming to one more topic, that is fractional unit. So what exactly fractional unit is? Here, remember in place grow and shrink, we have done the proportion thing. The same proportion here is in the fractional unit. So it would be like a grid template column, 1 FR and 3 FR. Basically, what does it mean is it's like 25%, 75%, or it's in the ratio of 1:3. So the same proportion thing is here in the fractional unit. Okay, so grid compute fractional unit more better than any other unit. You can also use pixel and all, but fractional unit are more expected in the grid because the core system of the grid mostly work with the fractional unit. Okay, we can see later on what this grid template column and other things are. Now, the basic thing is we should understand explicit or the main grid system and extended grid system, that is implicit grid. That two are the major thing here in when we are making the grid. Firstly, we create the grid, and then we can allot the items accordingly. Okay. Now coming to two other functions which are used very often. Okay, one is min max function. What exactly it is? Suppose in a grid column, I have written one fraction unit. Okay, but there is I want a minimum. If suppose the screen become more responsive, then I want minimum to be like 100 pixel and maximum to be one fraction unit. So like that you can allot the minimum and maximum with min max function. Okay, that min max function will compute this minimum thing first. This one is minimum, this one is maximum. That set is grid template column. So that is min max function. Apart from that, there is something called as repeat function. Okay, so repeat, what exactly it will do? Suppose I have created a grid with 8 different columns, one FR, one FR, one FR, one FR. That 8 times I have created. What exactly I can do? I can optimize it using repeat 8 1FR. So what exactly it will do? It will repeat this 1FR 8 times. It is just telling that this one fractional unit will be repeated 8 times. So 8 grid will automatically 8 grid columns should automatically be created. Okay. Similarly, you can add instead of 1FR, we have seen min max function. We can add min max. It should minimum 10 pixel, maximum one fraction unit. Like that, accordingly, we can arrange based on our layout. And this one, I repeat function also take one unit instead of like 8, you can write autofit or autofill. What exactly it will do? It will automatically allot space, the number based on your width size and based on your min max function. Okay, so based on your fractional unit, like how much unit you have in your screen, like it is large screen or small screen, based on that, it will automatically give best number of result. That like here we have specifically written 8. It can write auto fit. It will automatically fit the best possible way. Okay, so this one is the most widely used grid template, the fourth one which I have given, auto fit one. But mostly in general, this thing like the last second one is also widely used. Like in the bootstrap, we have 12 columns. So here we have repeat 12 like that. We can write the grid system in the bootstrap. It's similar to the last second one. Okay, so that's it, the basic terminologies. Now moving to the grid system. Okay, so here in the block we have seen the four different fields are there, four different divs are there. Okay. Now if I put display grid, what exactly it will do? All that inner item would come into one grid. Okay, and it will always be one column and number of items. It would be and number of rows. Okay, so what exactly it state that whenever I put just display grid and nothing, I put no other property of grid, it will automatically arrange it into grid of 1 into n number of rows. Okay, so number of item equals to number of rows, like that. Okay, so it is just like a basic one. Now we are moving ahead for creation of grid. So today what we are going to see only the grid creation. Tomorrow we can see layout and the item placement and other things.
So in display, if it was flex, it would be like arranged.
Yeah, arranged in the sequence
by default, and by default in grid
it would be sequenced in the top to bottom. Yeah, it would be like one column and n number of rows by default in the grid. So if there is display block and you just suddenly put grid, you may not notice a difference just in as it is, like in the look wise. But if you inspect the element, you can come to know it there the grid has been created. Okay, now coming to grid template row and grid template column. Okay, so what exactly grid template word suggests that your main column is created, your extended column which you have seen, the implicit column is not created with grid template. It will create only your main rows, whatever you want to initialize it. Okay, so let's see here grid template rows and columns are there. So here I have added 40 pixel, 50 pixel, auto, 50 pixel, like that I have created 5 columns. Okay, so if you see each of the item 40 pixel, 50 pixel, then auto, that it is created accordingly. Whatever size you have given, based on that it will be created. Okay, same way rows are created, but one thing to be kept in mind that this particular grid row, this row, this row, or this row have a numbering system in their own. So it would be like at the beginning, the first row would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be 1. Here 2. Then this row would be 3. This row would be 4. Similarly, here it would be 1. Here it would be 2. And same way till 6. And apart from that, there is alternate numbering system, that is negative system, which start from the end and come to the start. So -1 would be the last one, and -6 would be the first one. So it will automatically assign one name to the one number to each of the row. But you can modify this that we can see now here. Now what we have to do, I will put a square bracket thing. Okay, so what this square bracket would do, I can put my own name instead of what that number was there by default. So by default this was 1 or -4, I guess. I have put that as a row 1 start. So this row 1 start. So how I will put that? Here if you see grid template 40, 50, auto, 50, 40. Okay. So here the same thing is there, but before each of the unit and after each of the unit, there is one particular square bracket notation which is writing the name. So first would be this one would be, okay, let's start from here. This one would be the first, then 40 pixel space, then line 2, this one would be the line 2 name, name would be line 2, then 50 pixel here, then this one would be again line 3, like that it continues. So why we add this name to each one of them? So this we can see this actually facilitate your what we say, adding the items. So each of the item you add in the grid. So here I have seen that grid we can put any item anywhere. So this naming would help you to mark the start position and end position. So here if you put line 3rd, suppose in the grid you have put line 3rd and the 5 number, so here one item would be created, that we can see most probably tomorrow, and a part of it today we can see like how exactly it is created. So same way this naming each of the row and column would help us to recognize from where our item should start and how should it grow and other things. Okay, now coming to grid template area. Okay, so what exactly grid template area is, you can name one particular, see we have seen here we have named particular grid like grid lines. Here we have marked the first grid line as first, second one as line 2, third one as line 3, like that. So similarly, we can mark an area. So here, if you can see, this area is there. I have marked this as the header. This one as main. This one remained empty. This one as sidebar, and this one as footer. So basically, we can name each one of the grid thing accordingly. So here, let's see and how we can do it. So here we have created 4 items definitely, and we have put a one property grid area. So grid area is nothing but it is telling that wherever the header word will be used, it is equivalent to type name item, item A. So if I use header here, this means that the first one is item A. So here in get template area, what I do, there suppose I have created 12 columns. Okay, so here first one would be first row would be header. Okay, all the put I put all the names as header. Okay, so what exactly it will do? First element would be of type A, item A. Sorry, second one would be item A, third one would be item A. So item A would take the place of four of this. So like that you can put accordingly in the rows and accordingly in the column how exactly we want. Okay, but there is something like the property of contiguous work here. So if all are sideways, it will work. So if I put header one, header all four here, if I put header at the last at the footer, it may not, last one may not work. It will be some it will be created like some other, it will not work accordingly. So it is expected that whenever you put grid template areas, all should be sideways or above and below each other. It shouldn't be like out of the box somewhere else. Okay, so it may not work. It will we have to just create a rectangle with the grid template areas. So that's it till grid template, the original one. So grid template is basically a shorthand for all the three property: grid template, row, column, and area. Till now we have seen. Okay. Um, so if I put, like, suppose here I have put, okay, so till grid template area for everyone it's clear. Okay. Now grid template is a shorthand for all these properties. Okay. So suppose I have in the grid template I have written two. I have to make 2 rows and 3 columns, something like this. Okay. So what I can do, I will write grid template. Then the starting name of the row one start. So row one start would be here. Okay, this one is the row one start. This one. From here to here, it would be row one start. Then header. That would be 3 header together. Then 25 pixel. What exactly it is telling that each of row, this particular row, this from here to here, it would be 25 pixel. So this one is 25 pixel, and then row one end. So here row one will end. Similarly, row two start. Then it would be footer. The height would be 25 pixel. And then row to end. Similarly, then whenever this thing comes, when one slash comes, that's it is telling that all the grid area and your grid rows would completed. Now it's a turn for grid columns. So here we can write number of columns and the size we want. So we can write auto 50 auto, or we can write some other name for the column, and the things would continue. So like that we can write a grid template, which is a mixture of grid, column, row, and areas. Till here, any doubt? So these two are similar. So if I have written grid template like this is equivalent to this below code. So it would be like grid template row, how it should be, how it will be there. Then grid template column and grid template area. So that same code we can write in the grid template in a more compact way. It is little bit tricky, but yeah, it's like till now it's very simple. Okay, so till now we have seen how to create a main grid, like the grid which was already there. Now let's see about grid auto columns and rows, what exactly it is. Okay, so here suppose, like, let's start from the earlier story. So suppose if there is a guy called Akshit. Okay, what Akshit has done, he has created a container. So if container is having a grid template of 2 items, so there will be 2 rows and 2 items. Okay, he has created and he has deployed the code. Now coming to a guy called Deepak. What exactly he done? He has created 2 items so that he can place in that grid. The first item, A, what exactly he has done? It should start with 1 and end with 2. Simple. In the column wise, it should start with 1 and end with 2. So column 1 is here. It is started with 1 and end with 2. And grid row, it should be like sorry, in the column it started with 1 and end with 2, and the grid row it should be 2 and 3. So it should start with number 2 like second one and end with the third item. So like that he has created one item. Okay, but another item he has created with the column 5 and 6, which is beyond the reach. Like what Akshay has created two grid and two rows and two columns. But what Deepak has done, he has added another column which is not inside, which is not placeable inside this original creator item. So what exactly it will be done? Our grid will automatically create some more grid elements till that it can match column number 5 and 6. So once column 5 is created, column 6 is created, it will place that item, but this place is outside the original grid. So here only grid auto column and auto rows come into picture. So if I put grid auto columns as 60 pixel, so what exactly it will do? If I don't put as 60 pixel, then it would be like 0 0. So this two would not be displayed, and we can never know this is be in the fifth place. It would be displayed just like a third place equivalent. So it will be 0 0, so 0 pixel it will be there. So we can put that 60 pixel. So what exactly it will, originally it was 60 pixel, then 60 pixel, then it will give 120 pixel space. So to show that there was some element can place here, and then you can add the fifth element which is outside that. So this is how grid column works. The same way grid row works. But grid columns are not much into use as grid rows. But yeah, we can see both of them like how it works together. Same way we can put grid auto rows here to show any row property. Okay. Till here, any doubt? Okay. So grid auto flow is we can say, okay. So I have created some set of items. Okay, A B C D E. Okay, I have put item A to be size of 2 and sorry, height of 2, like total number of row it should take as 2. Okay, item E also size of 2. So if I put flex, so in between item B, C and D would be placed somewhere else in each of the grid item. So how it will be placed is decided by grid auto flow. Okay, so here grid auto flow, what exactly, if I put grid auto flow as row here. Okay, if it is row here, then what exactly it will do? It will place each of the item in one of the rows. So here item B would be in first row item, then the next column it will go, then it will, the sequence of arranging the item would be in the particular row wise. Okay, but if I put a column wise, so what exactly it will do? It will put item B in one of the column, item C in the next column. Now below that there is no column for in the main template. So what exactly it will do? It will jump to next row column then. So like that it will go. So if I put as a row, it will continue in a row form. It will place each of the item in a row wise. If I put column, it will place each of the item in the column wise. So here it will item B, then item C, then item D. It will be the from column way it will start. There is one more thing called as dense. So what exactly dense would do? Dense is the way it will attempt to fill via the sides. So if your item B is very small, suppose, and item C here in this case, if you see, item B is very small, like suppose there is contain only one letter A, and item C is very long, it contains some 29 letter word. So what exactly it will do? It will put this item here, and item D it will place here because item D is smaller. So it will check the size wise and it will place its order accordingly. But it is widely not used because of the reason that it may affect your accessibility. So if you see when we use ARIA labels or like that for accessibility, that can cause an issue in the grid system if we use dense. So that's it. Dense is not commonly used. Here we use either row or column like that. So till here it's the grid auto columns, rows and grid auto flow. So what exactly the final property grid is? Grid automatically is a shorthand for all the things we have learned today. Okay, so grid can either take a grid template directly, it can take grid template row and grid auto column, or it can take grid auto rows and grid template columns. Okay, so how exactly it works is, like suppose I have put grid 100 pixel, 300 pixel slash auto flow 200 pixel. So it is equivalent to this code, that is grid template row that is 100 300 pixels, grid auto column 200 pixel, and grid auto flow that is column. So like that means grid is like a combination of some of the properties. Either you can combine directly grid template, or you can combine grid template row with grid auto column, or grid auto rows with grid template column. So they have not created a way to add all the 6 property we have added, we have learned today, but it can do in the combination. The reason to do it in the combination is that so the grid area property shouldn't be compromised in any other way. Like if we combine each of them, then there would be a chaos between the grid area. But now I guess with separate template row and auto column and separate auto rows with template column, we can easily add the grid properties directly without adding each of the property. So it's just a shorthand. So all the 6 property we have learned today that are important. Maybe grid this is a shorthand, but you can use accordingly whichever you want. So till here, any doubt? That said is the grid thing, making of the grid thing. So placing the container would be something like this, like we have seen here grid column, grid row. This would help in placing the items, but the template column and auto rows, auto column, that would help to create a grid. So I guess grid creation is clear to each one of you, at least major part, and that's it. Okay, so any other queries? Grid is used in basically bigger systems. Like suppose if when you are creating applications at the base. So Flex is considered to be done in a component level. So if you are creating a component, it would be preferable you use a Flex property. But if you're creating a big page, a very long page, or any entire system of CSS, then Grid is more preferable. So if you see Bootstrap originally, which is not used inside Google but outside, so it basically uses the grid system so that it can automatically paste the item firstly. Then inside that it uses the flex item in each one of the component whichever we want. So like that how grid and flex work together. So grid is a best alliance for table. So before grid, we use table for manipulating the things like how it should be shown. We are hiding a table border and we are manipulating the layout how we want. But with the grid, it would make very convenient. So we can handle each one of the item and we can add accordingly and we can create table like structure without rendering the proper table, which is very much big optimization compared to earlier implementation. Okay. So hi everyone. Yesterday we have covered the concept of grid and the creation of grid part, and we have understood the concept of implicit grid and explicit grid, the main internal grid and extended grid. So anybody has any doubt till there, like creation of grid? Because after this today we are going to just see alignment, layout, and creation of items instead of creation of grid. So, okay, so yesterday we have created a grid. We have seen how to create a grid and if something got extended beyond the grid, how it is handled. Okay, so today we are going to see how we are going to create items and create gap in between grid. So first topic is the grid gap or gap basically. So what exactly gap does? Gap is same like CSS gap. It will create a piece of difference or what we say a piece of empty space between each of the grid lines we have created. So suppose if we have created like suppose here we can see we have created a grid. So between that we want a space of 10 pixel at the column level at between each column and 15 pixel in between each row. So we have created accordingly. So how we have created is using gap property. Gap has two parameters, grid row and grid column. So grid row, what it does, the difference between each of the rows. So here we have it's 15 pixel. So here it would be gap 15 pixel and then 10 pixel gap between the column. So that's how we can create a gap in between each of the row and column, and we can use this to for our own purpose in a very efficient way. So we can see here one example. So this is a web page created using a grid. Okay, so how it is created? Let's see. Like suppose you can see here we have total of 12 lines. Okay, so each of the 12 lines you can see each of the grid is having one functionality. So here this first grid and last grid is mostly the empty ones, and in the first grid is the empty one, and if you see in between I guess ninth grid is the empty one. Apart from that, one is for specifically for logo. Then later on you can see total 6 or 7 grid are directly for creating the content. So here we don't have any particular row. Like in the bootstrap, in this application also we have used directly columns and we have used with 0 rows. Okay, so this is how we can use grid in the real-time application. So here if you want, so here if you can see the last one, the items are placed in the total three grids. Here it's 6 grid, here 1 grid and 1 grid, one for anti, one for logo. So like that, similarly, based on your application, you can use grid columns likewise and grid rows, and you can create empty spaces in between. We have, I guess, 24 pixel was the space given in between each of the grid. So I guess it would be similar way we can create more complex grid structure using rows also based on your requirement. Okay, so let's see how we can place.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
As far as I can remember that we can't use like gap in Safari browser. I think it doesn't work. Yeah.
Gap was not supported in the Safari earlier version, but later on, I guess now it's supporting. In the latest most version, it's supporting. I also remember I have to use margin instead of gap when working with the Safari OS.
Right.
Around 1 year before. But I guess now the support has been added in the.
Yeah, it was not there. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
It was not preferable to use gap.
Able to use gap at that moment, but now I guess it's supported, and Microsoft Edge also have introduced the gap as soon as Safari has introduced. So I guess now it's cross-browser applicability has been. There are some grid properties that Microsoft Edge was not supported even 6 months before, and some of them are Safari are not supported. But I guess today, as of now, I have not checked, but almost all of them are supporting the main grid properties. Anyone have any other doubt? Okay. So moving to creation of items. Okay. So how you can create the items inside a grid and how you will assign to a particular grid cell or a group of cells. So let's see. Okay. Now suppose I have to create an item. So what are the parameters are needed in the grid? Firstly, where its row is starting, where its row is ending, where its column is starting, where its column is ending. That four properties are definitely needed to place an item in a grid. So how we can do it? Either we can start with a line number. Line number, as I said yesterday, it start with 1, 2, 3, 4, or as many number of row, and then negative it is the opposite. So we can see the slide that one today. So whenever grid is created, the first row line, the first line is allotted to number 1, then it's allotted to number 2, then 3, then 4, and you can have negative in the opposite sequence. Okay. Similarly, we have also seen how we can customize our own name for each of the grid. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, we can add row start, row end. That is the alternate property. We can use our own nomenclature. We can use for adding in the grid template. Okay. Now coming to our own implementation, like how we are adding the items. So as I said, the 4 things are needed. So suppose here we have to add this item A to this grid, which is spanning across 3 columns, and start from the second one and end at the fifth one. So let's see how we are going to add this item. So firstly, grid column start 2. So column is starting at the second one. So here at the line 2, this column is starting the grid. So here this one is 1, this one is 2. Similarly, where it's ended at the 5. The 5 is the name we have given, so it's ending at the 5. Similarly, grid row start is starting at row and start. Row and start is the first row line we have given, and it's end at the row 3. So that's how we can add one item. Item A is automatically added to here. Okay, so similar way with the grid row and column, we can minimize this 4 line to the 2 lines, like grid column 2/5. So what exactly it will do? 2 is the start one and 1 is 5, so we get 2/5. Similarly, grid row, it's like row 1 name, whatever name we have given, until 3. So that's how we can minimize this 4 line to 2 lines, and we can accordingly use grid column start, column row to grid column and grid row. That's how we can optimize the code, and we can insert any item in the grid which we want. Okay, now coming to the concept called grid area. Okay, grid area is basically an area referenced which you can either give it a name, or you can insert the item 4 property we have added. This 4 property can be in a single line using grid area. Okay, so the grid area either take 4 properties or the grid name. So we are going to see how we can insert item using grid area. Okay, so firstly, see, this is the item D. This column start with 4, end with end. The same property we have given for item D here. Okay. Now let's see how we can give with a grid area name property. Grid area name, we can insert any name like item D or anything. Okay. And do you remember yesterday we saw the grid template area? Now if we have given item D, now in the grid template area, wherever dot comes, dot says this telling that this will be empty. So empty, 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 then item D, item D. So here item D, item B, 2 items came. Similarly for the next line, similarly for the next line. So here we can have a grid where we automatically assign this item D without concerned about these all properties. Okay. Or second way is that we can put grid area and we can mark start and ending everything like with the number or with the custom name we have given using this. So here we have seen name one. This we need grid template area anyhow to put it into our grid. And or we can have this four property with the grid area and we can automatically place item D here. So here we have seen grid area and a grid row and column, how we can place anything inside grid, any item in a grid. So till now here any confusion like how to place an item in a grid. Okay, there is one more thing which I have missed and I have to say, like suppose here I have given one more thing, that is span number and span name. Okay, so what exactly this span is? If you see, if you make any, suppose grid column start 2, okay, and you are ending at a grid column 5. Instead of that, whenever you use grid column, most probably there would be a property called span is automatically added. So what span is telling that I want to extend it from this row till the next I have got till I get the number 5. Okay, it's similarly okay, I have missed here. So span is like for spanning the thing. It's for multiple lines. It is expanding across the boundaries, whatever was given. So suppose here if I have used here, okay, span I will continue later on. I have missed that adding here. Most probably span will be added here, and span basically span you across the boundary. So here if you see, here grid cell automatically assigned to only one item. So here one item can only take one grid cell. To span it across the multiple line, here multiple column and multiple row, we need a span here. So most probably span will be a span and span -1. This will be added. Okay, which I have missed it. So like that you can, span is basically telling that I want to expand it beyond the boundaries. That's it here. What if I put instead of span -1 or the last column, if I put total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I put here 7, what exactly will happen? Can anyone say? If I see total here, we have total 6 columns. Okay, and I have put 7th one. So what exactly it will happen? Yeah, it will expand this item thing to one more level. It will automatically create one more column, and that would be implicit column, which we have seen yesterday. By default, its area would be 0. Okay, so we can't see much change. But if we put some implicit that auto column thing, and we put some area like I want 60 pixel or something, so that if when we create this particular 7th column, it will automatically take some area and it will cover total 3. So grid will automatically create one column if we put more than expected one. So if we total number of column is 6, if I then create 7, then automatically create one column and it will put this item D inside that. So let for the time being, let's put at 6 and we continue.
In the grid area, we have like 6 like that covers 6 columns, right? So if we use less than 6, and in that specific like which column will be like removed in that?
Removed, it will okay. So if I put 5 here, okay. So what this line is telling, there is something called item D which I want to place in the grid. It's starting from the 4th one. 4th one is 1, 2, 3, and 4. This one is the 4th one. Okay, call 4 start is the 4th one. and I want to span it till 5th. Suppose 5 is there.
Yeah.
So this, instead of this 2 only, here this area would be okay. So instead of that, only this area would be taken. Okay, this area will not taken. This will not, here grid will not be created. This green part will not be there.
This goes horizontally.
Yeah, vertically. So instead of 5, if I put 6 again, I will get a grid which is green here. This part would automatically be created.
Okay.
If I put here span 1 to -1. Okay, so okay, 1 is the first line and -1 is the last line. Okay, instead of it, if I put 1, 2, 3, 4 also, it will remain the same. But if I put 5, automatically one row grid will create. Okay, similarly, that's how the entire cycle takes place in the grid. Now let's see the alignment thing, that is place content, place self and place items. Okay, so what exactly place item consists of? Place is basically, if you can say, it's a combination of justify items and align items. So here if you see place content first, so first the justify content, what exactly it is. Okay, so justify item, if you see remember in the place the concept remains same. It have the same 7 properties, and we can use to basically if your grid size is access. Okay, suppose the grid, your entire grid size is access, and your grid you have created, grid container, grid parent is suppose it's very big, and suppose if your inner childs are very small things, very thin one. So in that case, you can use justify content to either centralize it, stretch it, or end it and start it. So when will this justify content is created? We have seen the fractional unit, right? So fractional unit is the unit of grid which it use. But if we use suppose pixel thing, okay, if I want that each of the grid length is in the pixel, instead of fractional unit of proportion or any sort, it's in the pixel. So in that case, this justify content and the content of non flexible unit are created. So here it will not be much optimized one. So we can use it accordingly in the grid to set it either in the center or in the end or at the start, or accordingly. If you see this space around, space between, and space evenly. So we have already seen what is space around, space between, space evenly in the flex section, and I guess it's clear. Stretch will automatically stretch each of the items in the maximum possible area which is possible. Start and end. Start is the default one, and end will in the end. So that's it. Any doubt in this flex space around, space between, space evenly? Okay. Similarly, align content. Align content, you can say justify content is for the horizontal extension, like horizontally if you have empty space. If vertically we have empty space, then there is something called grid container. Sorry, that's some align content. So here by default it is at the start, but you can put it at the end, center, stretch, space around, space between, space evenly. So like that, if grid column is more than your grid content, then in that case you can handle it efficiently, like where it should be placed. So for the UI or the business ideas, it would be more suitable. Okay, so place content is a combination of align content and justify content. So here if I put stretch and start, what exactly it says that in case sometimes the grid, both the row and column is set, so by align content should be stretched, that is this one, and means it will take maximum of the height, and your justify content would be the start one. So justify content is start one, that is at the beginning it should be there. So like that you can have align content and justify content together in the place content. Okay, so similarly we have justify item. Okay, what exactly justify item is, you can suppose if there is a grid, okay, and the grid, suppose if there is all the inner cell, grid cell is having a different length. Okay, it's not the proper, it is not taking the proper width, but grid container size is so perfect, like it's there, but the inner child has some issues. So in that case, we can use grid justify items to basically align your inner items. So here if we put start, all the things come at the start way, like everything will be at the starting. End way, all the inner cells content would be at the end. Then in center, all the inner child center would be, items would be center. And stretch is basically the stretched version of all of them. Okay, Similarly, align content, align item is basically same thing in the column way. So if column, your what we say, inner grid item cells are very small, like very single line, and suppose grid is multi-line. In that case, you can say how the align item should be there. So your align item would basically all the inner child would be aligned in the column way. So column wise. So here we can say at the start, everything would be the start, end would be everything would be the end, center would be everything centralized, and stressed is by default. Everything would be the stressed one. So your grid cell will take the almost all the area. So we have already seen that justify item, justify self, that these two property are not in the flex. That are the grid, and they are play a crucial role here. Okay. Similarly, we have something called just what we say, justify self, align and align self. So what exactly it is? Suppose this is one of the cell. Okay, I want all the cells should be just item end. It should be aligned item end, but this cell I want to be at the align item top. So in that case, you can change align self here at the top. So it will change one of the property. This one of the cell align self would change the property of align items. Similarly, in the justify item, I want everything should be at the end, but this one should be at the beginning. Okay, this one item. So I can take this child property and put justify self at start. So it will automatically make that property at the start. Okay, so that's how justify itself and justify items work. Justify self and align self work. Similarly, place self is there, so that is the combination of align self and justify self. Okay, so that's it, I guess, for today. These all property, that is align item, justify self, place item, are in the parent container, in the container on the grid thing. All these property are placed in the grid one. Okay, but all the items like justify self, place self, and align self are inside your child. So one of the item. Okay, so suppose if I create a grid. Okay, I have created an item. Okay, let's say an example here. I have created this item. Okay, now item I have put some other div and span, and this is taking only with up to till here. Okay. Then I will place inside this item D. Item D I will place in like grid area. I will place justify self this one. So if there are some more child here, here I have one more child, here I have one more child. None of them will get affected. And only this child property I am changing. So only this one will get particularly affected. So how we are going to change particular ones using justify self is we are directly hitting the child and telling that justify self should be taken place. It shouldn't be in the container. Justify self will only work inside the child, and same way align self will only work inside the child. These all are the children properties.
Okay.
And justify items, align items, these all are the parent properties or container properties. In the child or items, we can only have these all properties here, which we have seen either for creation purpose or justify self, place, and item. These are all child. Everything else we have read, the creation of the grid, the gap property, or align item, justify the place item, or all of these are in the container parent level. So that grid creation, the gap property, and the alignment inside the grid one should be handled by the parent, and all the inner one will be in the child. Any other doubt? Anyone else have? Okay, so that's it for the grid. Let me place a revise again the previous topic, the how grid is different from flex. So flex, we don't create an explicit system for the parent. The flex is like you have created one div, inside one div, and all the div we are just either working with the properties, whatever, justify self or any align self or anything. Okay, but in a grid we need to create a grid structure. That is like you have to explicitly say that I want a 7x6 column system, also column row system, and then you work inside the child property and you will place it anywhere. Okay, second thing, in the flex is there, we all the items are continuous. Okay, in the grid also all the items are continuous, but the grid you can place it anywhere. Like suppose if I have a grid system, let me go back to second slide. So here I have 4 items inside. I can place the 4 items at a 4 different levels. So maybe this one was the first item, this one was the second, this one was the third, and this one was the fourth. I can place anywhere at any place. Okay, but flex, it will be continuous. You can use order to modify that, but you can't place anything anywhere at your own pace.
Like that will be sequential.
Sequential unless and until you modify it with the order thing. Okay, it will by default it is sequential. Here by default there is no proper sequence. You can add anywhere. But one more thing is, for adding that anywhere, you need to write code for each one of them. Like here, there in the flex we write order. Here we write where the column will start, where column will end, where row will start, where row will end. Similarly for this one and this one, like we can add it accordingly how we want.
When we use like a call -12 -9.
So that is basically a class, and the class would be using this property that there should be a column. 12 column grid should be created, 9 column grid should be created.
Ultimately, it is creating a grid, right?
It is creating a grid, and inside that, see, first you write call 12, and inside that write call 9 and call 3. So it is telling that 9 part should be taken by this one, 3 part would be taken by that one. So that's how grid is working. Okay, and there most probably the concept of implicit grid doesn't work like most probably, because they have already aligned into 12 items. Okay, so implicit grid is not a concept there, but when you're studying the grid concept, this implicit grid plays a major concept. Like yesterday I given the example of Akshit and Deepak, like how the things can go off the road. So like that for understanding this thing is there, and that's it. Any other one? Anyone has any other doubt? Okay, one more thing is that whenever in the grid we work in the fractional unit, it is preferable you don't use pixel unless and until it's very required. Okay, even the image also you can put like if you put inside a one grid cell, it is you put either with 100% or flex 1 like that, instead of putting it in the pixel that this should be that pixel, because the grid column can change with respect to responsive screen. So if the image has the same pixel, it may tend to break. So in that way, you need to handle that all things efficiently in a responsive way, like we do in the flex, same way we do in the grid. So इतना ही है आज के लिए.